In this topic, we are going to look at how the style of Trova came about, how it was influenced by the American folk movement of the 50s and 60s, as well as the Latin American musical tradition. Until the 1960s, the musical landscape in Latin America had been dominated by tango, bolero, Mexican country ballads, Caribbean music, and other forms of traditional music unique to each country. However, the political landscape made way for a new type of music called precisely Nueva Canción or New Song, which appeared in Argentina and Chile in the form of protest music. All of these artists identified with the political leanings of the left and were involved in one way or another in the political struggles taking place against the prevailing dictatorial regimes. Those were the cases of great artists like Atahualpa Yupanqui in Argentina, Violeta Parra, and Víctor Jara in Chile. If the Mexican corrido had chronicled the events of the Mexican Revolution, this new type of music carried out the message of a new revolution that could topple the military regimes. All of these artists identified with the Cuban Revolution and suffered persecution and in some cases went into exile. Their discourse was anti-colonial and anti-imperialistic, addressing the military, political, and economic influence of the US in the continent. But not everything coming from the US was repelled. Latin American artists, be it musicians or writers, have always recognized the influence of US music, literature, and art in general. We talk, for instance, about the influence of jazz in bolero and salsa. Along those lines, this new political song emerging in Latin America was a close relative of the American folk tradition. Artists like Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, Bob Dylan, and Leonard Cohen became very influential, not only because of their music, but also because of their political leanings. Even though these artists lived and carried out their denunciation in the city, all of them being from the middle class, they looked towards the countryside, and some of them went into an anthropological search of indigenous music. Singers like Atahualpa Yupanqui and Violeta Parra carried out an exhaustive research of a type of music that was in many cases forgotten. Their songs talk, among other things, about racial discrimination and the oppression experienced by the indigenous population under Spanish rule, and, in the 20th century, under greedy landlords and US corporations. And they did it using traditional rhythms and instruments. Paradoxically, their anti-colonial discourse also used literary forms inherited from the Spanish colony, mainly the Romance or lyrical structure. Well, they also sang in Spanish, incorporating sometimes words from indigenous languages, which is what Violeta Parra did using the language of the Mapuche people of Chile. Like Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan, the instrument best suited for the musical and political struggle was the guitar, which was portable like a revolutionary weapon, and was popular, unlike, let's say, the piano, which had been an instrument associated with the elite. "This machine kills fascists" was written on Woody Guthrie's guitar. Therefore, this humble instrument was seen as an agent of change. In some cases, the music wasn't that complicated, because the main thing was the message. That's the case of songs by Atahualpa Yupanqui, Víctor Jara, and Violeta Parra. While many battles took place in the mountains, cities became spaces for resistance. The Nueva Canción or New Song movement created new spaces, and concerts were given in universities, which were political battlegrounds. And a new space appeared, a peña or café where musicians, poets, and artists gathered to perform, exchange artistic and political ideas. These were places of resistance and of artistic production. A crucial moment was when a few young Cuban singer-songwriters were present at the Festival of the Protest Song in Havana in 1969. They were part of a new movement called Nueva Trova Cubana. This new movement was influenced not only by the Cuban musical heritage, also by US folk music, the Beatles, particularly the Beatles after Sgt. Pepper and Revolver, Spanish and Latin American poetry, and surrealism. Their music achieved a great deal of complexity. That is particularly the case of Silvio Rodriguez, in whose music we can hear all of the above influences in a style that is completely unique. His songs possess a refined poetic quality and a great musical complexity. It's important to keep in mind how the new song, and particularly the Nueva Trova, had a far-reaching spread to many Latin American countries, mainly to places involved in a political struggle. Great singer-songwriters appear in, for instance, Uruguay, Argentina, Panama, and Honduras, to mention just a few. As we'll see in the next topic, our good friend Rómulo Castro is the perfect companion to guide us from salsa to trova, both because of his extremely rich musical heritage and also because of the political and social issues he cares about.